All right, so it's preparing to live stream because this is the first time we've done this since it did the whole.
Well, let's not dwell on that. Let's just move forward. Yeah, new day. Oh, you like my ponytails?
I do. I think it's cute.
My Princess Leah.
I love it.
David goes, Princess Leah. I said, yeah, you know that was our princess.
Did the whole.
Ooh. I think we're live streaming. New day.
I think we're on.
Looks like we are. Yeah, you know that was our princess. I think we're live streaming. New day.
I think we're on.
Looks like we are. Yeah, you know that was our princess.
Sounds like there's an echo.
Yeah, because you got to turn your phone down.
I don't have my phone on. I actually think it's coming from this new setup thing.
The computer.
Sounds like there's an echo. But I cut.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an echo. Do you have Facebook up on your computer? Let me see if I do.
Just the way that the Zoom connected it in.
No, what you do is you have to click off of Facebook.
Yeah,
on your computer. Got it? So if you want to put it on your phone and turn it down, turn the sound down.
Let's have a little blonde moment.
It's all right, girl. It's all right. You know, sometimes we do that anyway, but you know, it's like, that's all right. It's good. You know, it's good. Because I did that one day and I kept going, why do I keep hearing myself? then I figured it out. I was like, oh, because even when it connected in, it you know, open another window, and so we're on Zoom on the window and Facebook, and it was back and forth.
That's what I just did on me. I'm like, wait a second, but I just closed down the thing. Why?
No. So welcome to Ebony and Ivory on Spiritual Growth. This is Tammy Morrison and my partner Megan Marie, and we are live. We're going to talk about.
Let's talk about that wonderful love. You know, it's so much stuff right now on the collective. I just think that there's so much hurting right now. We're going into the holiday season.
And we just finished voting.
Yeah, don't even, you know where I live, that good old red states. But
people complain, but they don't vote.
Right. You don't have an opinion if you don't speak it. And that kind of
somebody got mad at me because I said that one day, and you know, I didn't really give a shit, but they got mad at me because I said, well, you know, people complain all day long, but then they don't vote. So you really don't have the right to complain, because if you're not a part of the solution, then you're part of the problem, right?
You are part of the problem. And, you know, and really, I mean, that's true in life too. I mean, that kind of goes with the whole, you know, express and suppress.
Yes.
The fact that, you know, if you are suppressing, you aren't vocalizing your opinion, you aren't vocalizing your emotions, you aren't vocalizing your things. So why and how are you getting upset with someone else because you're expecting someone else to be a mind reader?
Right.
To know your issues, and when you cannot express your wants, needs, or desires. And
well, you know, and that can be a part of the heart chakra and the throat chakra, really.
Oh, that's both.
You think about it, right?
Yeah, it's both.
Yeah. So I say you can, you know, because you're not expressing it, that's your throat, but it comes from here. So
it comes from that wound.
So that's like huge. So we're going into the holidays. What's this next one?
Thanksgiving.
Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, and then the other one, Christmas.
Yeah, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, all the
good
old holidays, the fun time season.
I was gonna say, and you got to be with your family.
I call it the narc season.
Yeah, it is.
I like sitting back and I like watching all the people who aren't in relationships, who have to quickly jump in a relationship. So, you know, they're not going to those holiday parties all by themselves and everything. And it's all this, oh, they're the greatest person. Oh, what are they getting me for Christmas? Because we have no idea what the true meaning of the holiday season is, of family.
Love.
No.
You know what the holiday season is? That's when you feed people.
But feeding,
they're only hungry at Thanksgiving and Christmas.
But that's a form of love, you know, that's taking care and that's providing. Like Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. Like, oh, I love to cook Thanksgiving. Like,
see, that's like us, you know, I think about it, and culturally for us, it's like, it was it was a holiday where we always get together, you know, and food always brings you together anyway.
Right.
You know, and it's, yeah, it's kind of neat. And I think about it now because so many people aren't getting together anymore.
No,
and there's so much division in families now till, you know, I mean, sisters and brothers, you know, not speaking to each other for 10 and 12 and 15 and 20 years and all this stuff. And it's horrible, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
But like for me personally, you know, I used to always dreaded holidays, you know. I actually put a post about how that, you know, 19 years ago, well, it was like 19 years since I had spent a actual holiday with my family. But, you know, like I would do stuff like before the actual holiday, but like the actual holiday day was reserved for me and for my immediate family, because it's the chaos, it's the fighting, you know, like being raised by narcissistic parents, you know, every holiday was a fight, and it was fights over the dumbest crap. But the fact that like you're celebrating, you know, food, you know, someone's got to fight about it, or, you know, it's horrible or terrible, you know, holidays, someone got that present or someone got that, or you didn't think about me, you didn't, and it's like just the dumbest stuff that now it's like I sit back at holidays and I am just like, now my family crosses my mind on holidays, but it is like I just send them love and light, and I'm just like, I don't deal with any of this chaos anymore. Like I can sit back and I can have a fun day and actually appreciate the true meaning of a holiday. I can sit back and enjoy my kids. I can sit back and I'm not being rushed. I'm not walking around on eggshells. I'm not like worried about like who's going to fly off the handle the next second. And it's beautiful to me. Like, I love holidays now because I did. I used to dread them. I used to dread every holiday.
Many times. I know we used to have, like when I was married to my ex, we used to have Thanksgiving, we would go to his mom's house because she always cooked this huge dinner. My mom, sometimes she didn't cook because sometimes she worked. You know what nurses do on holidays? You make money. Yeah. And so sometimes she would work. And
my mom was a nurse and my father was a cop. We necessarily sometimes didn't, and sometimes like we were known at certain restaurants for certain holidays because my parents always worked those holidays.
Exactly. So we, you know, but we would have this thing where we would go to her house and go to, you know, his parents' house, and we would have Thanksgiving and all this stuff. And then if my mom and them, you know, if they were home or whatever, then we would kind of shoot out there. But she didn't always have food. So, you know, cook the food. But then there was this thing where sometimes I felt guilty because, you know, we were over there, you know, and maybe I should have, you know, but you can't do everything, you know, and after a while you get to the point where you just can't do everything. And then after a while I got to the point where, oh, we staying home, we staying in our house and having our own Thanksgiving. You know, we ain't going. I'm a cook.
The ex-narcissist, the ex-husband's family for Christmas. So like I grew up that we didn't travel like to the extended family and stuff like that for Christmas. Now the ex-narcissist, they had to travel around to every single one. You know, those people pleasers make those appearances and stuff. And when it came down to
pop in, grab a plate.
You know, just that you don't enjoy the holidays. And when it came down to when I had my first child, I was like, y'all want to see us on Christmas? You can come to my house. And they were like, what? And I was like, I am not.
What? How dare she? How dare she?
And, you know, every year after that on holidays, well, you know, because Megan won't go anywhere, we have to celebrate it here. We have to do it then. We have to do it the weekend before the weekend. Yeah, you're damn right. You know, my kids should be allowed to sit at home and enjoy their presents. They should be allowed to sit at home in the comfort of their own house. And you know what? You all don't have little kids or anything like that. So you know what? Drive your happy asses around. With my view on it. But oh yeah, it was hilarious. I would sit back and I would die laughing. Well, we have to plan this in advance now. Sorry, I'm not catering to your ass.
How to make you feel bad?
I would just laugh. I'm like, yeah. You know, because you know where I am. You know, if it was that big of a deal, if it was that important for you to see us on that specific day, well, then come to my house because you know exactly where I am. I'm sitting at my house.
Exactly.
So
how do you think that people should handle that kind of stuff?
Exactly how I did, you know, you know, but it's true.
No is a blessed word.
You know, it's speaking your wants, your needs, and your desires and stuff like that. You know, that's not how I grew up. So one, you know, it was respect.
So it was a growth process for you.
It was a huge growth process to me because I wasn't going around catering, because like before I had kids, I did do that. I hated it, you know, it was clean and it dragged. And like when I had kids, I was like, if I hate doing this, why am I doing it?
Right.
Why am I passing that misery on to my kids? What, no, like,
well, and then, you know, the kids feed off of you anyway.
Right.
So if you're miserable, they gonna be miserable. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. Yeah.
Right. You know, and like, no, and like, God, you know, it was like horrible because like his stories, like he never had any new stories. It was always the same repeat stories. So, you know, because, you know, narcissists don't have friends.
So you could have just you just, you know, recorded it and just played it every year, you know?
Yes. I mean, the man was in his, you know, late 30s, still complaining about when he was 10 years old, his cousin broke his toy on, you know, Christmas Day, blah, blah, blah. A narcissist holds a grudge. A narcissist remembers everything. And it was just like, I was constantly like hearing the story, like he's talking complete crap about all his cousins, how he hated, well, this cousin did this cousin did that, they did this, da, 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 da. And now you want me to go spend time with your family?
No.
Because I have to hear the whole entire ride to go
again.
I have to hear every single time, because that's what that holiday did. It triggered that memory in him. And so he had to repeat it over and over. And it was like, oh my God. Like, why don't you just, you know what? You're in your 30s, they're in their 30s. Why don't you just punch it out? Why don't you punch it out about that G.I. Joe that he broke when you were 10 years old that you wanted so bad? That, you know, your mom went out and bought it for you, you know?
You know, I was watching this. I was watching this movie, and they were driving down the street. It was what was the name? I can't think of the name of it. But what it was it's like the pre-movie to The Sopranos.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so they were driving. The guy was driving down the street, and the wife just kept. She was nagging and just going on and on and on and on. Kids were in the back seat, and all of a sudden he pulls out a gun and he shoots her through the hair.
That's how I felt, and that's how it is.
That's what you want to do. You just want to.
Yeah, and that is how it is when you're with a narcissist. You know, it is just that constant of, and then like, because I didn't have sympathy, because I didn't have compassion for an event that happened 30 years ago, I'm the bad guy. Like I'm now in the hot seat because I don't have compassion of something that happened 30 years ago
that you weren't even around for.
I wasn't even around. I didn't even know you. Like, you know, but that's how it is with the narcissist. I mean, that's like, you know, I'm starting to, you know, do like red flags on narcissists. That is a narcissist. It's like they constantly are just repeating those like old stories of simple, like little things like that, where it's like,
that would make a good TikTok.
What do you want me? What did you want me to do about it? Was I supposed to go like search like eBay and go find that and buy it for you? Be like, here, you know?
But you know, they don't want solutions. They don't want solutions.
No,
they just want to be messy.
And that's what it turned into, because of the fact that, you know, I'm hearing again the story for the, you know, the 10th time, you know, of it, you know, because it's the buildup. It's like, as soon as that invitation like comes for that gathering, that's like the first thing that comes to mind to them. And so it's constant of like, when you're just talking about it, or, you know, you're trying to plan on it. And that's another tactic that a narcissist does. A narcissist will, you know, try to build that image into your head where I'm the rational adult. And I'm like, okay, this happened 30 years ago. I mean, I'm sure if you spoke to your cousin about this, that this still bothers you. Well, actually, a normal rational person like 30 years later is gonna be like, dude, get the fuck over it, you know? I mean, seriously.
See, you see how I'm laughing now? This is how I used to laugh when my ex would do that kind of shit. And then he would get so mad.
Yes, it gets so mad. You know, because all of a sudden now they have no, you know, compassion or empathy at all, but now you're supposed to show it. Like,
fuck, you know.
And I'm just like, I don't see the issue of it. But then I'm the bad guy. Then I start to get criticized. You know, I don't love him. Oh my God, I don't love you because of a toy that got broken 30 years ago.
Yeah, like, and I'm sorry that I don't see the relevance of that now.
Yeah, there is none. But, you know, and that goes to just show of that, like the narcissists, you know, they're just child. They're just, you know, we assume that they're adults because of their stature, you know, that they look like an adult, but mentally they're still locked into that. I mean, they really,
and it's messy. They're messy.
Do what?
They're messy.
Messy. But he's really truly playing that over and over. Like, I mean, I guarantee you, like, if you sat down and like I went through like a hypnotherapy session with them, I bet you I could take them back to, and they could describe every little aspect of where everyone was and things like that, because they just dwell on it so much that they build that up, that it's the reality. And it's like, oh, you know, no. God. And it has no relevance, you know, and that's living in
you want to say,
right. And, you know, and
what do you want me to do?
Yeah. But we, you know, we speak a lot of that within trauma. We speak with the trauma aspect of that we have to let it go. And in some ways it's the same rationale, because of the fact that we replay, you know, those situations in our head. Now this is the abuse and stuff that's being done to us. It's words, it's the verbal, it's the emotion, but it's the same principle in many ways of like, let it go. We got to let it go. But how do we let it go? We let go of the feelings and the emotion. A narcissist doesn't,
you know, my song for that.
I know I think it's
let it go. Let it go.
Which I still have to watch the movie, but you know, but a healing victim, that's the difference between a healing person on a healing journey versus the narcissist.
Yeah.
The healing person sees it and recognizes that, you know, it was the other person. It wasn't necessarily anything to do with them, and they let it go. We let go of the anger. We let go of the resentment. We let go of what we have on that. Where a narcissist, just like the ex-narcissist in my life, he then now turned anger that he had there. Now he turned more anger, building the anger, because I lacked empathy and compassion over something 30 years ago. So they just build onto it, because
Nico Johnson said, let it go.
Yeah. But, you know, but they build onto every emotion of new times of when they tell someone a story. And if you don't have that reaction of what it is that they want onto it.
You know, they create these things because they have these expectations that they expect of other people, but other people aren't like them.
Right.
They're not going to have those those things. You know, I know I got mine. But yeah, you know, you have those expectations, and they have those expectations, but when you don't meet them, that's when you're a problem. Right.
But it's also, but they build off. So they already have that resentment. You basically, they turn situations into that circle. That's why it like continues to loop around, I think, even more for them, because, you know, not only in this example of this toy, you know, he had, you know, hate for his cousin. He had hate for his aunt and uncle for having that child, because they didn't raise a child proper to not break his toy. You know, then all his cousins who sat there and witnessed it and did nothing about it, you know, that, you know, then so it goes, but so now it grew, but now 30 years later, I now get added to that circle because I don't have compassion the same as them. So now I'm the same. So now he's now mentally back in that 6 years of age where I'm, you know, 30 and we're having, and that's the common thing. And they do that such at the holiday times, and to make you feel bad. And then the guilt trip of like, you know, you have to buy me all this stuff because they're so materialistic, you know,
right?
You think a lot about like hoarding and stuff, and like the mental and the emotional.
Ooh, Lord, yes.
Well, but hoarders, you know, there's some type of abandonment, rejection, or something. That's why hoarders hold on to everything.
Yeah,
you know,
because they're afraid to let go.
They're afraid to let go, but it's because of a serious abandonment wound. You know.
The thing is, we don't even realize that trauma don't have to be nothing huge and big. It can be something small.
Right.
You know, I actually went to a play the other day, and it was an intergenerational play, which was really neat. It was like the youngest person was 21 and the oldest person was 79.
Okay.
In this play, and it was so neat, and all in the middle. And it was people that came up and shared their stories, different things, and they did it, you know, in ways where, like, the person was sharing the story, and then other people were acting it out for them, and it was just really neat. And some of the stories were heavy. You know, like there was rape involved and people that were wanting to commit suicide and all this kind of stuff. And it was just heavy. But just thinking about how they performed that and how they let it out. And I know that for all of them, because I actually had conversation with a few, for all of them, it was such a healing journey for them to do this play. You know, because they were able to release some of these things that were so heavy that were probably inside of them, weighing them down, causing dis-ease.
Health issues.
Traffic is heavy, my phone said. But yeah, so it was just neat. And just the way that they came together and brought that stuff out, you know what I mean? And some of the things were, of course, heavier than others.
Right.
You know, some people had heavier things. You know, the gentleman that was 79, he talked about being in Vietnam and losing some of his brothers, you know, and being right next to somebody that I think got blown up with an AED or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was like, whoo, I mean, I was in tears. That story. It is. But it was really it was interesting, the fact that they were able to bring it out. And so I mentioned that because, you know, so many times, even with narcissists, they hold things so hard and so heavy and so deep. And, you know, and I'm not saying anything about the fact that, you know, I'm not saying anything about that. I'm just saying this is what they do, right? They hold it.
Yeah.
And then they perseverate on it.
Yeah.
On and on and on and on and on. And then they make it this huge ass thing. Like this toy that was broken at 6. I mean, fuck, I'm sure he had more toys than that.
Right. And it was an only child. So yeah, he had a lot.
Yeah. So he had a lot of toys, you know. So it really, I mean, come on now.
Right.
You know. But do they even have the capacity to let it go until they decide to get healed? Yeah,
they don't. Because it's everyone else's fault, you know?
Right. It's not, it doesn't involve them, you know?
Right. It was everyone else's fault, you know? And just like, you know, he's like a perfect example of that is the fact that apparently this was a common thing that happened at the holiday times. Okay. Well, if you know that this is going to happen, why do you continue to take your toys?
I don't know. Makes no sense to me.
I mean, if you know it's a pattern, why not stop the pattern? Eliminate the whole entire situation. No, because you want something to be angry at another person. You want to have that hate. You want to have all of that misery inside of you. And that's, you know, the difference, you know, because I think it does get twisted. And some people, you know, have reached out to me on, well, like, well, am I a narcissist? You know, because, you know, the letting it in, and, you know, the suppressing it and stuff. And it's like, you know, the reality is if you are asking if you are a narcissist, in a lot of ways, you're not. Because it's already,
because you can be empathic,
right?
Because narcissists don't have that capability.
Yeah, because you're caring about,
they don't have any empathy,
caring that you may have done that to another person. You're caring in that, so that shows. No, now could you have narcissistic like
tendencies?
Yes. I mean, I think, honestly, I think a lot of people do. I think most people actually do have in some variation, and some narcissistic traits aren't bad to have because of the fact that it's, you know, in some ways it's knowing your worth. It's knowing what you'll accept. It's knowing self-care. But they just take everything to the wrong extreme.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing like bipolar.
You're right.
I mean, honestly, we are really all bipolar because we ain't all in the same place at all the time. You know, I'm not up here all the time. I look like it, but I'm not up here all the time. Sometimes I'm fucking down. You know what I mean? And everybody is. But what is the extent of it? Yeah. You know, to get diagnosed with being bipolar, what is the extent of it? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's the recognizing, it's the awareness, and it's accepting fault. It's accepting blame and being okay with that. You know, that is another big thing, is knowing your role and knowing your position. You know, I'm not saying like in my marriage, I was, you know, I mean, I am the greatest, but, you know, I played, you know, I played my roles.
All right, Muhammad Ali.
You know, but I mean, I had my, you know, moments, I had my things, you know, in my marriage, I was very, I wasn't healed at all. And so the fact that when he would trigger with his narcissism aspects, you know, certain things of my behaviors that I learned as a child, reacting to my parents' narcissism, I did, you know, but you know, and like I was very known for my outbursts, you know, because my preference of my soda bottle, you know, it finally would get to the point and I would explode. Every damn thing that, you know, was completely on my mind, completely, I had eaten up, it was eating me up inside. Oh Lord, it was going to come out and I was going to make you feel that little and that small. And then guess what? After I let it out, I was good. I was completely fine, you know, onto it. And that was my cycle. That's how I played into it. You know, but what I did is that during those outbursts, which I now realize, I was giving fuel to the narcissist.
I know what you're saying, because my ex actually told me that, he said, you know, he said, you can cut somebody with your tongue. He said, and they don't even know they've been cut until they walk away and see themselves bleeding. Mm-hmm. That's what he used to tell me. And I know that I did that, you know, but I did that in response to what he did.
It was,
you know, and I felt like if he was going to hurt me, should have hurt his ass.
Yeah. Well, it's called
reactive. And how I could do it is this with my tongue, because he was bigger than that.
It's reactive abuse is what the new terminology is. You created that reaction. You created that. And now,
you know what I used to say? You asked for it.
Right.
So I used to tell him, I was like, you asked for this. I said, I'm normally a nice, decent, kind, sweet person. I got a good heart. You know, I'm not going to hurt nobody. I said, but this shit that you did, this is what brought this from me.
Right.
I said, so you asked for it. Now, was that right? Hell no, it wasn't right. But it was reaction. Mm-hmm. You know, and to me, it was like, I felt just fine at the time. Because of course I wasn't healed either, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and it is, but you'll see a lot of videos lately about it is the reaction, and it is a great term of it, because it's continuous abuse, and it's letting it, you know, build up until and you know, and the funny thing about it is a lot of times it is the dumbest thing. Yeah. It is the dumbest thing. But
when you think back on it, it don't make no damn sense.
Like, why is it that is what caused me to lose my shit? Like, what is that? You know, like there's all this other crap, you know, that I could have lost my crap on, but, you know, I was trying to be, you know, good-hearted, you know, having compassion.
Decent, kind.
You know, and trying to handle it in, you know, a rational manner. But, you know, you cannot rationalize with a narcissist. You cannot rationalize with them, because they'll never see it your way. They'll never see it. And so, you know, and so it's like you have to explode to make them go into their shell for a moment.
Well, so you can feel seen, though. That's the other thing, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily, though, feel seen, because I think at that point, it's like you don't even want them to see. You don't even want them to be around you. You know, I think a lot of it is, you know, you want them to feel that pain that they've been causing you over and over and over again. And so you want to put them into their shell. You want to put them like the little child they act like in the damn corner. They need to go to time out. And so you have that explosion, you know, and you put them in the corner.
Yeah. And you know what? I know for me, I found out that worked best for me. If I could just, you know, because it didn't happen all the time. It was like you know, just waiting, just one thing after another. And all of a sudden it's here and then it's out. Yeah. You know, then I didn't shut your ass down. I didn't cuss you from here to there.
I put you in the corner.
And then I cut you. I took my tongue and
because we thought they were adults, you know, we thought and stuff like that.
You're like, wait a minute. I have children. We have children. Yeah. You acting like one of them. I don't have but 2. Yeah. Don't got 3. Yeah. You know,
you see a joke about how, you know, I had a grown-ass child as a man, grown-ass man as a child, you know. I was his mother.
Most of us have.
Never again.
It's like, oh my God, wow. And then when you meet one that's not, when you meet one that's not, it's like, oh my God, can it be? Does it really exist?
I don't know.
You will.
I'm still single. And that is not an invitation to anyone watching this. No, I'm good. Thank you.
She's not taking applications.
I'm taking applications. I'm good.
And I'm not single, so I'm definitely not taking applications. So stop fucking DMing me, please. I'm happy as hell. My husband is my soulmate, loves me more than Christ loves the church. So yeah.
And that's beautiful. And everyone deserves that. And everyone will find that. But we have to, that vibration. And so, with the holiday times.
And what's the new word now? Frequency.
Yes. But frequency's actually been around for a while.
Yeah, but we hadn't really been focusing on it as much as we are now. Yeah. Now it's like you used to see a video here and there, and now like almost everybody's talking about it.
Yeah. I think that for me with my sound therapy and some of the people that I hang out with, much more of the frequency because it's the sound. It's a sound. Like got my stuff, in my background, which is so funny because like these have been like I've been carrying these around with me for a while, my music signs and stuff. And so it was kind of like hilarious when I pulled these out of a box and I just like finished my sound therapy. And I was like, the universe.
That was synchronistic.
Well, because like the one, I can't read it. I'm not going to adjust the camera because it might fall and stuff, but it says life without music would be a mistake. Yeah. And then music.
I actually had a post like that one day, a couple of years ago.
The music is the art of thinking with sounds. And then music is the universal language of mankind. Nice. And I've had them for years.
You see my trouble.
Huh? I know.
You see my trouble.
And so it was my record. But these, they got pulled out of a box like right after I finished my sound therapy. And I was like, oh my God, these have been on my walls for like 10 years. Nice. And the universe has been speaking.
It's like time. It's time.
And everything is divine timing. But I hope that, going in, people are listening on these, but, if you're experiencing these type of what Tammy and I have been talking about tonight, like these are your constant holidays, you got to sit back. You got to sit back and you got to judge the environment you're around, your family that you're around. You've got to sit back and really what's important to you, what's important to your soul. Tammy, you just froze on me. Let's see if she's going to come back. But, these are tactics. They're things that narcissists, they do during the holidays. They, try to ruin everyone else's because the center of attention is not on them. And it just makes the holidays so long that you don't get to appreciate or sit back and enjoy different things, especially like anything like you love and you enjoy. They're going to find a way to try to ruin it. They're going to try to find a way so that you don't do it. And it's sad that, they have to do that. And Tammy just left me. But, stand your ground, stand of what's true for you, stand of what you like, stand within your own 2 feet, know your worth, know what you want. It does get lonely during the holiday times, narcissists, they don't like to be going to those holiday parties or watching other people being happy and seeing everyone. So, don't fall for the trap. Don't fall for, if you got an ex-narcissist in their life and, it might be a few years because they're hoping you haven't changed. They're hoping that you've forgotten everything that they've done and they're going to hit you up and they're going to be like, hey, what's going on? And, you're going to have that open heart. You're going to feel that holiday sense and maybe they've changed. Time does not change a person. The only thing that can change a person is them healing. It is them sitting down and reflecting, acknowledging. Do not let them back into your life unless you can have these real type of conversations. And because most likely one of the reasons why you broke up is because you always felt like you were talking to a brick wall. So, have these type of conversations with people. Have the conversations. Okay, well, this is how I felt like during this relationship. See if you can have those normal conversations without being triggered yourself. See if they can communicate with you effectively. And if they can't, then don't step back into the trap onto it. But that is it for tonight. I hope you enjoyed Tammy and I. Tammy is already fallen off. So enjoy your night and we will see you guys next week. Namaste.